Hello CoH fans and welcome to Company of Heroes Gamecast. I'll be your host ArmorKG, and for today's game we have yet another match on the Balance Beta Patch. The Balance Beta Patch that is of course at its final iteration just before going to retail, and this is on a whole new map introduced with the latest patch, namely Ingletons or something like that. So let's get into the game, and we'll be talking about the map and the players as the first slow minutes of the game go on. We are paused at the 5-second mark, and we'll be unpausing in 3, 2, 1. Unpaused 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. A little bit slow on my unpausing there. I cannot actually coordinate my brain and my hands. It's gonna be a problem for me eventually, right? Anyway, in the north of England, we have player Abhilohia2 playing as the United States or the Americans, and in the south we got player SigeTank playing as the Wehrmacht. I guess that's supposed to be SigeTank, and it's a type on that, or something else, which I do not know exactly what. Player Abhilohia, currently level 16 across all factions for Company of Heroes, pretty well versed in the game as his stats suggest. Player I'll call him SigeTank for the sake of the typo. Player SigeTank, not that high up in the ladder, but maybe it's just his first account. He has chosen to play, on other profiles, etc., etc. I don't know exactly what that is. Of course, this is not automats, it's a custom game on the beta, so the skills may actually differ significantly. Anyway, let's go and take a look at the openings, which of course is standard barracks rifleman for the US player, and Wehrmacht quarters first MG for the Wehrmacht player. MG first, of course, being utilized to kind of buck up and assist the pioneers in the whole capping game, which is a kind of a cool move, since the MG42 that early in the game is not going to be in trouble from advancing riflemen, and of course it's not needed to cover territory that early. Following it up is not a motorcycle, as is customary for a lot of Wehrmacht players, but is a Volks, the more safe Volks option for a second unit out, since that first motorcycle is kind of frail, needs to be microed a lot, and eventually, if you do not manage to suppress some unit, either an engineer or a rifleman, and push him off the field, the motorcycle MG opening can actually not pay off for you and eventually be detrimental to your starting play. MG42 taking cover in the church to the west of the map, to that urban area in the west of the map, is backed up by the Volks, and of course those riflemen and the nearby engineers will have to retreat, so a win for the Wehrmacht player in these early moments of the game, although the American player already managed to cap that westmost medium fuel point. Minor engagement between pioneers and riflemen near the center of the map, of course resulting in the pioneer retreating, and once again, whenever a Wehrmacht player moves and focuses on one area of the map, the American player promptly responds and caps the other portion of the map rather quickly, since of course those riflemen have that speed bonus on capping. Now let me allow me to go back into how this map actually came to become part of the map pool eventually for Company of Heroes. This map is the result of a GameReplays.org map contest that took place in March 2010, if I'm not mistaken, and the creator of this map is GameReplays.org member Cam51. Who, as it actually turns out, is a level designer for games overall. So he has designed some stuff for Crysis, for Unreal, and I'm missing some other game. I'll link his website in the description of this video on YouTube, so if you want to check his work out, you can find it there. Now, flanked by flame engineers, riflemen towards the position of the MG in the church, but the MG promptly moves out of the church and most probably will be able to set up and face those riflemen and engineers, but the Wehrmacht player kind of plays it safe and actually retreats. The Wehrmacht player, of course, has the help of a sniper to back up his Volks and MG42, so his building order was, if I'm not mistaken, MG to Volks to sniper to Volks. So, which is kind of pretty good, although usually you would see that opening with double Volks, sniper, MG42, but the Wehrmacht player, of course, realized and actually thought that placing that MG42 in that church in the early moments of the game will give him a dominant position in the west portion of the map, and that's exactly what happened. There's this there's a very evident contrast of areas here in this map. The east is kind of rural, it's open, not many side blockers there, while the west is filled with buildings, a lot of heavy cover, of course, and highly urban. So it's a choice, I guess, for the players to engage in either portion of the map, depending on how they feel comfortable playing with utilizing cover and all that good jazz. What I mean is that playing with your riflemen in the east will give your riflemen increased mobility and more opportunities to flank, but will most probably result in most of the times being out of cover and suppressed, while if you focus and you want to take the combat to the west version of the map, you will have that increased cover from all those buildings, but your flanking will kind of deteriorate as you move towards that more heavily populated by houses areas. So, we are currently at the 6 minute 26, 27, 28, 29 second mark, and we have a flank in the makings for the American player. Riflemen and flame engineers moving from the northmost portion of the map meet up with some wire that the Wehrmacht player previously built, which is a very nice move by the Wehrmacht player. But the engineers will promptly cut the wire, will allow the riflemen to proceed, so this flank is in full effect right now. The MG42 in the church will take damage should it stay there longer, and we see the Wehrmacht player with a very good micro and response move the MG42 out of there and back into the base, where it of course will be reinforced. However, the two squads of Volks stay around still, and the sniper is microed behind while uncloaked. Of course, that will give him an increased movement speed, but the advancing flamers were too much for the Volks in the building to handle, so Volks and sniper retreat as well. Overall, I would say a successful flank by the American player. However, he did not inflict that much of a manpower drain on the Wehrmacht player, since most of his units are still up and running and will eventually be back at full health. And nice mine placement, by the way. Was just hit by some riflemen in near the westmost medium fuel point. And no taking indication on the rifleman of the American player, and of course that means that something else is going on, and that is a motor pool back into the American player's base. Nothing coming out of the motor pool yet though, and here it goes. The American player was waiting for that 40 fuel, and since I'm saying 40 fuel, you must probably have already guessed that the unit coming out of the motor pool is a T-17 armored car. T-17, of course, introduced into combat affairs with the advent of Tales of Valor. It used to be much better than an M8, has undergone significant changes in the way its weapon fires, and its veterancy works with this balanced beta patch. And overall, it's not as effective as it was at killing infantry, but it still has that, what is it called, phosphorus grenade ability that can stun enemy armor, enemy vehicles. and which actually can come in handy for an American player who can couple that with some AT guns in the back, or even give him the ability to throw that all-important sticky bomb with his rifleman. T-17 of course make its way towards that urban area in the west portion of the map, tries to take on some pioneers, the bulk of the Wehrmacht infantry force, and of course the MG42 in the building. All those forces retreating, and the Wehrmacht player has gotten up tier 3 and an armor car of his own first. A Puma. That Puma of course will not be effective against the T-17 unless of course it is upgunned, and most probably the Wehrmacht player will be waiting for those munitions to or the upgrade to finish, and that's exactly what happened. The Puma has been outfitted with that cannon, will be effective against the T-17, and of course the T-17 will be a threat no longer. T-17 of course still harassing. Now the Wehrmacht player has focused a bit in this portion of the map, in these resource points just outside of his base that were in the control of the American player for quite a long time, although he was not connected to them, and that will be a good source of income for the Wehrmacht player, so that he can build up a little bit more of a force and even get some tech up even further. Company indication by the American player is airborne, but he does not seem to have used any of his abilities yet. The Panzerfaust goes off on the T-17. Puma tries to hunt it down but misses on one of its shots, but however second shot actually hits the T-17. That T-17 will most probably go down. Some riflemen, are they going in for a sticky bomb? It doesn't seem to be happening, so Puma needs to hunt that T-17 down before it is repaired, but the Wehrmacht player seems to have stopped trying to do that. So I'm not sure why. Strafe coming down on the position of some Folks, capping the medium fuel point near the center of the map, and probably the position of the sniper. Misses the sniper, hits the Folks, but the squad is okay, will be retreating and reinforcing. We're currently at the 11-minute, 31, 32, 33 second mark, and the Wehrmacht player seems to have stabilized. The initial plan by the American player to get that fast T-17 down without getting rifleman upgrades did not actually pay off for him, since that Puma is more than enough to handle that T-17. However, the American player promptly gets an AT gun out of his motor pool. The AT gun, of course, if used correctly and properly in combination with the standing ability of the T-17, will most probably kill that upgunned Puma without much trouble. However, the American player still has to take into account the fact that there's a sniper on the field, and the sniper can be quite effective against that AT gun. AT gun that is not being moved and stays in the American player's base. I'm not sure if that is an oversight. Well, it must be an oversight, since I do not see any use of the AT gun being that far back and not near the front of the battle. Couple of riflemen moving to the east, and the rest of the riflemen and the engineers moving from the west towards the position of the church and that victory point there. However, the MG42 has repositioned in the stone building to the southeast of the church, so we'll be fine for now. T-17 making a move, as well as some squad of riflemen, and this is a precarious situation for a strafe, although it was not actually needed. The sniper was uncloaked, and the T-17 actually managed to kill the sniper. Some Nebelwerfer on the field as well, but no barrage just yet. Sticky bomb attempt being attempted to be thrown to the upgun, not to the upgun, to the normal Puma. Does not actually work. However, two stickies go off towards the upgun Puma, and that Puma is almost destroyed. One more sticky will kill it. However, the MG42 is still around. The unupgun Puma is still around, so those riflemen will be routed from the field. Another unit of the Wehrmacht player going down. That's a pioneer squad, and that was by the low fuel point there. it seems that the Wehrmacht player did not actually respond in the best way that he could during that flank, losing his sniper and having it uncloaked and kind of crumbling under pressure, but he still managed to withstand that flank. He did take losses, but he will be fine for the time being. We are currently at the 14-minute, 29, 30, 31, 32 second mark, and now 2 Nebelwerfers out for the Wehrmacht player, as well as a Gesützwagen. 2 Nebelwerfers, of course, quite effective against riflemen as well as AT guns, provided they have some spotting. Combine that with the Anapkant Puma, and I think the flanks will be a little bit, or actually a lot more harder for the American player to pull off, since this time around there will be much more fire coming down on the riflemen than before. Nebelwerfer is actually firing at this moment towards the position of some riflemen, most probably, and the AT gun near the north of the map, and that's exactly what happened. However, AT gun repositions, good micro by the American player, riflemen squad getting out of the house, and there will be fine, just fine. The question is not whether the American player is going to be able to avoid the Nebelwerfer fire, but whether or not he will be able to put more pressure onto the Wehrmacht player before the veterancy starts to kick in for the Wehrmacht units. Veterancy, of course, that we see actually being upgraded for the vehicles at veterans level 1, and most probably I could like to see some support unit veterancy or even some tank veterancy for the Gesützwagen and the Nebelwerfers. Not that much of a significant infantry force by the Wehrmacht player, so I'm guessing that getting rifleman upgrades will be quite strong, and that's exactly what happened some seconds ago. The American player got bars for his rifleman, and no, he has not gotten yet the supply yard level 1 upgrade, so experience gain for those riflemen will be at a normal pace for the time being. But eventually, should the American player invest a little bit in infantry play, and get that supply yard upgrade, I think he will be in a pretty good shape. We now witness the American player focusing in the east portion of the map, not only because, in my opinion, it's harder to flank and attack the west portion of the map with all those buildings, but because in the likes of Angeville, the east portion of the map actually holds 2 victory points, and the west just 1 victory point situation. That stands at 456 victory points for the American player and 298 for the Wehrmacht player. So that's a very good lead for the American player right there. And now the Wehrmacht player starts to make a move with his vehicle it's much more mobile than his Nebelwerfer and his infantry towards the east, almost taking down the T-17, but with not successfully doing so in the end, although the Gesützwagen seems to be on the hunt. However, at the last minute tries to change targets, tries to target fire the rifleman, is being focused fire by the 2 AT guns, gets a sticky bomb as well, and will eventually go down. 2 AT guns, of course, formidable force against any form of Wehrmacht armor, and some folks hit a mine, and a strafe comes down as well. And of course the Wehrmacht player, in fear, for fear of them being overrun by some riflemen, he promptly retreats them, although riflemen